Welcome to the Cal Park Bros podcast. I'm your host, Terrence, and with me is my co-host, Jason, calling in from the Batcave in Indianapolis. Jason, how are you, my good man?
I'm doing very well as usual. It's Tuesday. It's a short week at work, so that's always a good thing. So yeah, I can't complain there. It's always in a good mindset because basically for me the week's half over now. So I ain't mad at that. So it's been good though. Definitely a much needed short week. But as always, man, I look forward to Tuesdays because that means I get to do a podcast with somebody that I think I've known for a long time. I don't know. That's a judgment call, I guess. But yeah, ready to do it, man.
Well, wonderful to hear, Jason. Whatever you got cooked up next week, it sounds like some time well spent being off. So
Hey, anytime you're off work's a good week.
I agree with that. Thank you for listening. This is episode 23 of the Cal Park Bros podcast. For the uninitiated, Cal Park Bros is a weekly podcast for fans of culture, current events, sports, life, and entertainment.
And as always, we are your hosts, Terrence and Jason. And every single Thursday, we release a brand new episode where we discuss the current events of the day, sports, and the athletes we love.
And even some of the athletes we loathe. Folks, no matter the topic, you can expect a brutally honest and fun exchange of snark while learning through the lens of our 30 years of friendship that originated in Calumet Park, Illinois.
Folks, for more Cal Park Bros content, and we know you want more Cal Park Bros content, make sure you connect with us on Facebook, Instagram, Twitter, and YouTube under the handle Cal Park Bros or Cal Park Bros Podcast for more behind the scenes of the Cal Park Bros show and to engage with us every single day. But also, most importantly, the Cal Park Bros Podcast is available to listen and subscribe for free wherever you listen to podcasts.
Like us, love us, share us, follow us. And folks, if you like us, why wouldn't you?
You know what it is, folks. At this point, if you like us, if you haven't shared us yet with somebody else, what are you waiting for? If you want to stay a member of the Cal Park Bros Nerds crew and the Cal Park Bros Stalker crew, that's what you got to do. Like us, love us, share us, and follow us. Live it. Love it. Do it. Cal Park Bros, baby.
Live it. I like that. It's a lifestyle.
Is that another hashtag for us?
It might be. It might be. We got to tinker with that a little bit, though. I'm not sure if that's ready for Gen Pop.
We can do it. We can do it.
Well, Jason, thank you again for another wonderful week to share our segments and our witticisms with the world. The first segment, we're going to be talking about the fact that Sears Roebuck, as we knew and loved it as children and as young adults, is no more. Apparently, the Sears enterprise has closed its last store in the home state of Illinois in Woodfield Mall, which is Schaumburg, for those scoring at home, folks. Jason, when you and I were discussing this earlier this week, you didn't even know that Sears was still open at all.
Oh, there's a few things. Yeah, I didn't know they had actual still department stores. Still, there's a few there was a few Sears outlet stores here in Indy, which even the ones I knew about are actually now closed now. So it's kind of funny. But yeah, I didn't know they had any large department stores anymore because what I know Sears as is being that department store inside of a mall. And even though we don't go to malls as much as we used to anymore, every mall you go to now, they have other big name department stores like Von Maur, which I know you're familiar with that, or you might still find some pennies around maybe, or whatever it may be, but it's not Sears. So yeah, didn't know they still had any department stores open. Didn't know that Illinois was a home state. Didn't know that. Makes sense though, given the Sears Tower, even though it's not called that anymore. You know, Willis. But yeah, it's surprising that they're still open and a little bit not sad to see that they're leaving Illinois or closing this last department store. Um, but it kind of gives you that walk down memory lane knowing that this thing you used to know is now no longer going to be around at some point. So yeah.
Yeah. So I'm going to reference the CNN Business article that I saw earlier this week. The Sears department store in Woodfield Mall in Schaumburg, a Chicago suburb, will close on November 14th. The store, um, as Sears is known, was acquired by a company named Transformco, which acquired Sears Holdings after the company filed for bankruptcy in 2018, and has confirmed its plans to develop that property. We intend to reinvigorate and maximize the value of the real estate while enhancing the consumer experience with popular retailers that fit the regional draw of Woodfield Mall, says Scott Carr, president of real estate for Transformco. Transformco said the company is focused on growing Sears.com and the Sears Home Services business. Sears will still have a presence in Illinois, by the way, Jason. There are 11 Sears hometown stores in the state, operating primarily in small towns by independent dealers or franchisees of Transformco affiliates. The stores are typically between 6,000 and 8,000 square feet, far smaller than Sears department stores, which were more than 100,000 square feet, and sell mainly hard goods and appliances. Transformco's strategy is to operate more stores like the hometown Sears. Now, since Jason, we've talked a lot about how retail has changed, we should probably talk about where Sears is, even though they're no longer in Illinois. There are currently 300 Sears and Kmart stores still open in the United States, down from nearly 700 in October 2018, when Sears declared bankruptcy. At its peak, the company operated more than 3,000 stores. So I feel like a lot of this probably was accelerated by COVID. And I'm looking in this article. It's this guy is an analyst. I shouldn't assume it's a guy. It could very well be a gal, or it could be a they. Reshmi Basu, an analyst with DebtWire, an expert in retail bankruptcies. I was surprised it wasn't liquidated already. Sounds like something you'd say.
Something I'd say.
Yeah. I mean, it literally sounds like you were surprised that they were still in existence. So this analyst with DebtWire is effectively saying, well, I'm surprised that they weren't already liquidated. They were surprised, it sounds like, that they weren't already there pre-COVID.
Well, yeah. I mean, also as you're saying that, thinking about their connection with Kmart, since Kmart bought them, I believe, 2005 actually. I was thinking the same thing with them because I haven't seen a Kmart in a while. I think every Kmart I've known of has closed, whether it be here in Indy, Chicago, Alton, Missouri, wherever. So that combined with not seeing those anymore, yeah, I didn't think either one of them were around. So seeing this news article again about the last store in Illinois, and even just hearing that there's still 300 stores, uh, which I'd be very. We can always look it up, but I'd be very curious to know where those stores are. I know they said they're like in small towns. I mean, they mean like truly small towns, like towns of like 1,000 or so people, or what? But yeah, man, like I was saying yesterday, it's kind of like I remember a conversation with my grandparents talking about some of the stores that they grew up on, and were fixtures in their lives being around, and Sears is one of them. But you also mentioned some other stores that are around, and I kind of feel like this is going to be an example of one of the stores in our time that like people like you are going to be telling their grandkids about. Hey, I remember back when I was a whippersnapper. I used to go to Sears for this or whatnot. I remember my grandfather saying Sears was a place for him to go for tires, and I never thought about Sears being a place for tires, even though that's something they definitely do. Um, but yeah, man, I don't know if it's all this is related to COVID. Um, I mean, obviously the decline is going to, as far as their decline wasn't because of COVID. Maybe their growth in the, online services they offer maybe helped. But I have to imagine even that growth for them is going to be stunted if it grows at all. But then also, I got to feel like their brick and mortar businesses were probably not helped by the growth of other online services or even other brick and mortar places like Walmart. Because I mentioned yesterday, Walmart is a place you can go, as far as super Walmarts to go to get pretty much anything you want. I mean, I know you mentioned Craftsman Tools, but that's more of a specific brand. Walmart may or may not have that, which I think they do. Um, which I know you mentioned that maybe Walmart.com, which still is to the point as to why you might not go to Sears.com and get it because you can just get it from Walmart with the other stuff you're buying. Um, but then you combine that with Amazon being the trillion-dollar company that they are, um, what has to be factored into this when it comes to any online business because just the amount of growth, according to Bloomberg, the growth that Amazon has seen between 2015 and 2021 this year. I mean, they've almost doubled their value since then, and their value is already in the billions at that point. I think like $800 billion. I think I saw on a BBC article. So they doubled that. So yeah, it's no surprise. I mean, for things like Sears and Penny's, just the decline of people shopping at malls in general, uh, other popular brick and mortar places to shop, and then just online businesses are just as far as like Amazon and Walmart, they're probably dominating both spectrums of that. And the fact that you can get your Amazon stuff, you can pick it up from any Whole Foods near you if you don't want to pick it up at your house. Yeah, it's probably gonna be hard for any stalwart that we knew as a kid to survive, just because whenever it comes to online shopping or even you know brick and mortar shopping, certain places are just known places to go. It's either this place or that place, and that's pretty much where people will go. So I know it's
Yeah.
a knock on Walmart, but it is what it is.
Yeah. I think that there's definitely a secondary conversation to be had, not for today, but about some of these brick and mortar businesses like Kohl's, for example, that have effectively said, hey, we will work with an entity like Amazon if it means that we actually get to survive.
Are you seeing an article about that recently? That
I
them
mean,
saying that?
no. I mean, it's not an article. I walk my black ass into a Kohl's and I return something to Amazon. I don't need an article for that. That's firsthand experience, my dog.
There we
So,
go. We'll take that firsthand experience. We'll take it. Appreciate
yeah,
that.
no. Christy or me, we ordered something off of Amazon. It was like, that didn't work. And from my perspective, it was simply just easier. That's another thing, too. If it's just easy for me to conduct business, I'm more likely to buy stuff from you. I'm also more likely to buy from an affiliate. I mean, affiliate um, conversions is a big deal too. It's like, yeah, maybe you don't buy from that company, but you buy from a company that is cool with this other company because you guys actually have a proper handoff in terms of the baton if I need something. It seems like Sears kind of missed that boat. I mean, even in the CNN article we're referencing here, it even talks about the fact that Eddie Lampert, the CEO, literally got sued because it seemed like he undermined Sears's ability to ever compete in this landscape by every imaginable metric. So that's a very nuanced discussion. I'm just telling you that's what critics have said because he's a hedge fund guy, and a hedge fund guy typically is going to bean count you to death and pick the bones so there's nothing left, which would explain why Sears has had to sell off everything that actually made it Sears. I mean, the fact that you can get Craftsman, I can walk into a Lowe's and buy Craftsman stuff. That used to be no. If I wanted the Craftsman stuff and I wanted the good shit, I had to walk my ass into a Sears to get it. You know, that's where I knew Sears from. Was big into appliances and your home and garden stuff. Um, and really, it just seems like for Amazon is going to be the easy. Oh, well, they didn't weren't able to compete in that landscape because of Amazon. Forget that. They're getting their ass kicked by Home Depot for crying out loud. There's more competitors, and it seems like you know it's unfortunate because one, it's a great Illinois story and it's a great retail story. Um, but it almost feels like the more we learn about it, the more it's like, well, of course it happened like this because of the players involved and the politics involved. Um, but it's probably for a different segment. What I really want to talk about is what Sears meant to us as kids. I mean, I my dad bought more shit from Sears for our household than I care to count. So, um, yeah, Craftsman being one of the brands that just stands out to me, and then I think that's why I probably hold that brand in such high regard today as a man, is because of how much stuff I saw with the Craftsman label on it as a kid. So, um, I did want to bring up some history about Sears. Sears actually started off as a mail order business in the 19th century. Um, the actual Sears name came from Richard W. Sears. He bought a shipment of watches that a local jeweler refused to sign for. He established a side business selling the watches to other station agents on the railroad. He quit the railway a few months later and established the R.W. Sears Watch Company in Minneapolis. He then moves that business to Chicago the following year in 1887. And an ad he had placed in a Chicago newspaper brought watchmaker Alva C. Roebuck into the business. And by 1893, the successful partnership officially became Sears, Roebuck and Company. Now, another thing that was really popular about the Sears brand was the catalogs, or as former Terrence, as a child, would say, the Sears Wish Book.
Because we know Terrence wasn't getting nothing as a kid. We know that. I remember
I mean,
distinctly Terrence asking for stuff, and your mom was like a hard no almost every time. I thought it was hilarious. Not that my mom
I
was any
mean,
different, but still, it was funny.
my mom had a very unique way of saying no, and that's to say, I will not be emulating that way of saying no. I would circle all this shit in the Sears Wish Book, making a damn fool out of myself all of November and December. Come December 25th, ain't a damn thing under that tree from that catalog.
I'm sure you had nice versions of stuff not from Sears though. So
Yes, yes, I did. All the shit underneath that tree was like, oh, we in the clothing section. So I bring this up because this was really innovative, because not only, I talk about the wish book, but also they took advantage of, you could actually order a home via the Sears home catalog. So between 1908 and 1940, Sears sold 70,000 to 75,000 prefab kit homes by mail order. And because those materials were mass produced, consumers could purchase a small bungalow for as little as $450. Of course, that's $450 in that time money, not $450 today money.
that was baller money back then, bro.
Yeah, you hashtag balling on a budget. So, but yeah, Sears is part of our lexicon. I mean, for Christ's sake, one of the coolest skyscrapers of all time, the Sears Tower. I'm never going to call it the Willis Tower. It's always going to be the Sears Tower to me. So while Sears has met, I don't even want to call it an untimely demise, but it feels like, in a weird way, a very slow death. I feel like I bring up these things from our childhood and the things that our parents cared about. And I bring up how retail has changed, because we can't talk about the story of Sears without talking about us in that regard. Um, Jason, did I leave anything out when we talk about the story of Sears?
No, I wouldn't think so. I do know that just from my perspective, my affinity for Sears, even though I remember them as a kid. I mean, of course, they had one in Evergreen Plaza, if I recall correctly. But I, as far as my use of Sears, like you mentioned, became known. I knew them as appliances, tools if you need them, those random things that you were not going to buy on a regular basis, like clothes, even though they sold clothes. I didn't think of Sears as that clothing place. I thought of it as appliances, a place to get my car fixed, maybe. If you want some
Yep.
nice rims
Auto,
for your car, you can do that. So,
the auto centers were big too. I mean, we talked a lot about tools, home and garden, but a lot of things that we talk about our experience, I feel like the fact that the shopper experience has changed and evolved in the 20 years plus years that we've been adults. We cannot talk about Sears and the changing landscape of shopping in America, the world for that matter, without talking about how Sears couldn't keep up with that. So it's a very important distinction, probably worthy of a second segment at some point, because to your point, Jason, this is not the only major retailer that's facing these issues. And even the CNN business article I referenced talked about real estate. You know, America's going to have a ticking time bomb in its hands if malls that we know and love it aren't going to be around. So
that's true.
definitely a worthwhile discussion. So
For sure, man. Definitely, it's a lot of things. Because malls, I don't want to go too deep into it because I know we're going to say that for next episode. But I think that is a thing that is going to hurt a lot of businesses because if people aren't coming to my brick and mortar shop because they can buy stuff online either from me, either from that same store. Then what's going to be the point to keeping the brick and mortar place? Um, I can't think of stores in the mall that's local to me, but if I can just go online and buy from there, people are going to start doing that. Some of which, like you mentioned, the pandemic, it's going to be because of that. People don't want to necessarily get out because they might not want to have to put on a mask. Or they don't want to just get dressed, because they're already used from working from home already. So it's like, you know what? I had this long day. I'm already in my pajamas. I don't feel like taking them off. Let me just go buy this, there, whatnot. And that's going to become the routine even after the pandemic's over. And even if you're, going back to the office at some point, you're still going to be used to buying stuff online. There's going to be a lot of people also who never go back to the office. Their job went fully remote, or they found a fully remote job. So
right,
that's going to lead itself even anymore not going shopping anywhere. Because when you do want to get out at that point, it's probably not going to be to go shopping. It's probably going to be more to hang out with your friends, people you know, so you can see that face to face interaction, not necessarily sticking your head in a cashier's face trying to buy some clothes off of them. Um,
yeah,
so yeah,
yeah. That's also a worthwhile discussion. Some of us hate shopping, like as a general task, even if it's stuff for just you hate doing it. And, you know, for some folks, retail therapy is therapy. And for some folks, retail therapy is literally hell on earth. And I think that is also worthy of further discussion at some point. But I digress.
yeah.
That concludes our segment on Sears as an enterprise. Um, And coming up next on CalPart Bros, we're going to be talking about the fallout from some more of these Capitol rioters, supporters, in light of the fact that some of them are going to be actually doing some jail time. Coming up next on CalPart Bros.